Henry VIII executed 2 of his 6 wives, 2 young women from the same powerful family, both elevated to queenship and both brutally cut down. But if we look closely, their downfalls weren't the same at all. One was a calculated political execution, fast, ruthless, and built on lies. The other was a slow-motion disaster, a real investigation that dragged on for months before the axe finally fell. What does this tell us about Henry VIII, his court, and the brutal reality of Tudor queenship? Let's compare the falls of Anne Boleyn and Katherine Howard and uncover the truth. And thank you to Bianca Brooke for inspiring this video by asking how their falls compared. Anne Boleyn was the daughter of Thomas Boleyn and Elizabeth Howard. Raised in the courts of Europe, she was educated, ambitious and politically astute. Henry VIII pursued her for years, breaking with the authority of Rome to marry her. This was no fleeting romance. This was a king reshaping England itself for one woman. Katherine Howard, Anne's first cousin, had a very different journey. She was raised in the household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, in a kind of finishing school, really, for well-to-do girls. Unlike Anne, Katherine received a normal education for her class, and she wasn't groomed for politics. But when she arrived at court, Henry immediately noticed her. Within months, he discarded Anne of Cleves and married Katherine in a whirlwind of infatuation. Anne's rise was strategic and slow. Catherine's was fast and impulsive. In April 1536, when Anne had been queen for 3 years, legal commissions were quietly set up. And on the 30th of April, Mark Smeaton, a court musician, was arrested and interrogated, possibly tortured. He became the only man to confess to sleeping with Queen Anne. Within days, Sir Henry Norris, the king's groom of the stool, George Boleyn, Anne's brother, and others were arrested, including Anne, who was arrested on the 2nd of May. They were all thrown in the Tower of London. The indictments accused Anne of committing adultery on 21 separate occasions, but many of these dates were impossible. Anne or the accused men weren't even in the same location. And how come no one helped her? No ladies in waiting, no guards, no go-betweens were implicated. How is that possible when a queen is never alone? This wasn't an investigation. This was a pre-planned coup. On the 12th of May 1536, Norris, Smeaton, Sir Francis Weston and William Brereton were tried for treason for sleeping with the Queen and plotting with her to kill the king. They were all found guilty and sentenced to death. 3 days later, Anne and her brother George were tried, found guilty and also sentenced to death. On the 17th of May, the men were executed, and on the 19th of May, Anne was beheaded, a Queen of England executed for high treason. From the first arrest to her death, less than 3 weeks. No real inquiry, no real defence. The outcome was decided before the trial even began. But things were very different 5 years later in 1541. On the 2nd of November 1541, Archbishop Thomas Cranmer informed King Henry VIII that a man named John Lascelles had made allegations about the king's 5th wife, Katherine Howard, having an unchaste past. At first, Henry didn't believe it. He ordered an investigation, not to destroy her, but to clear her name. Over the next 3 months, dozens of people were interrogated, including Catherine's former sweethearts, Henry Manox and Francis Derham. Derham had boasted about a past relationship with Katherine, and when interrogated and tortured, confessed to having a full sexual relationship with her. Then Thomas Culpeper's name emerged, a young courtier suspected of having secret meetings with Katherine while she was queen. This is when Henry's grief turned to rage. On the 10th of December 1541, Culpeper and Derham were executed. And on the 21st of January 1542, a bill of attainder against Katherine Howard and her lady-in-waiting, Jane Boleyn Lady Rochford, was introduced into the House of Lords. According to this bill, the women were guilty of treason and could be punished without there being any need for a trial. It received the King's assent by letters patent on the 11th of February 1542, and on the 13th of February, Catherine and Jane were beheaded. Unlike Anne's fall, Catherine's case involved a thorough, if brutal, investigation. From the start of the investigation to Catherine's death, there were 3 months and 11 days by my reckoning, and it's a timeline packed with interrogations. Yet the investigation into Anne was over in less than a month. But why were their falls so different? Number 1. Anne's fall was deliberate, Catherine's was a catastrophe. Anne's downfall was a setup. Henry and Cromwell knew she was innocent. That's my view anyway. Henry wanted to move on to Jane Seymour and Cromwell needed to protect himself, so Anne was sacrificed. Catherine's fall was real. The investigation started as an attempt to clear her name, but as the evidence stacked up, Henry couldn't ignore it. Number 2, Henry VIII's motivations. In 1536, Henry needed Anne gone, fast. He wanted to move on to wife number 3, Jane Seymour, as quickly as possible. The sooner Anne was dead, the sooner he could marry again and have a son. While Anne was in the Tower, he spent his time gallivanting with ladies. An Imperial ambassador, Eustace Chapuis, reported, "You never saw prince nor man who made greater show of his cuckold's horns, or bore them more pleasantly." And yet, this king had supposedly been betrayed by his wife, the woman he broke with Rome to marry, and by some of his closest friends. Where was his anger and his grief? Fast forward to 1541 and things were very different. Henry wasn't looking for another wife. Catherine's scandal was a shock to him, and that's why her case took time. When he found out that the allegations were true, he was grief-stricken, beside himself. He wept in front of his council. He was furious and called for a sword to kill her himself. He was hurt. It was a real case, not a setup. Number 3, what this tells us about Henry VIII's court. Henry VIII was all-powerful. Whether an investigation was real or staged, the outcome was the same. The Queen was doomed. The Tudor court was a deadly place. One misstep, one rumour, one enemy, and even a queen could fall. Anne's death was cold and calculated. Catherine's was a drawn-out tragedy. Anne Boleyn's death tells us that in Henry's court truth didn't matter, only power did. Oh, and if you want to know more about Anne Boleyn's fall, then I wrote a book on it. This is my rather battered copy of it, The Fall of Anne Boleyn, A Countdown. And it really gives a day-by-day kind of diary of Anne's fall. And it really does show you just how quickly everything happened. So that's my book, The Fall of Anne Boleyn, A Countdown, by me, Claire Ridgway. Katherine Howard's death shows us that even when the truth was sought, it didn't save you. In 1546, when there was a plot against Archbishop Cranmer, Henry warned Cranmer that false knaves could be procured to stand as witnesses against him and to bring about his condemnation. That's how things worked. That's what happened to Anne Boleyn. 2 cousins, 2 queens, 2 tragic ends, all at the hands of a king who could never be satisfied. They may have had very different falls, but they were victims of a monstrous king. Anne for something she clearly hadn't done, and Catherine for things she'd done before she'd even met the king, and for something she may have intended to do. What do you think? Was Henry VIII a victim of betrayal, or do you agree with me that he was the true villain of these stories? Let me know in the comments. And please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more Tudor history deep dives. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.